So welcome to this mini sleep workshop where I'm going to run through roughly about 10 minutes of things that you can recap on over your sleep, set as targets and work on. So we're going to touch on a routine when sleeping. We're going to touch on night shift workers as well for sleep. And we're also going to go through a little bit on jet lag and foods as well. So I'm going to share my screen. I made a basic Google Doc on this because I just think it's easier to run through. And I'm going to go over with you the routine that I've written down. And what you've got to remember with this is it's an ideal routine as well. So I've just done this as an example. Everyone's situation will be different. There'll be some people that can't get to bed at that time because they've got things on. Maybe they work nights, but we'll get through that. Just ignore the timings unless you can, and just take from it what I've written up. So I'm going to run through this with you. So sleep routines and how best to fit them around work. I've put in here a little quote that we say to a lot of our clients. Everything's just easier when we sleep well. Our food choices, our energy levels, how productive we are in work, our sickness and our health, everything's better when we sleep well. And what do I mean by sleeping well? Here, sleeping for 7 hours all the way through. Again, this might be different for people. Maybe they can't access 7 hours. All the way through, whatever the time is a good night's sleep. So if you're if your sleep's broken and you're waking throughout the night, then that's something to work on and look into. And having an excuse or reason like going to the toilet doesn't just mean that it's okay and normal and should be accepted. That's an insight, and that's something for you to explore as to why, and something we can help you with as well. So here I've put a routine of finishing at 9:30 at night. So finished work, whatever, finished the day, telly's done, dogs are walked, and we start closing down for the evening. So I like to work in half-an-hour blocks on this as it gives people enough time to go through a process to get ready to go to sleep. And that's exactly what sleep is. It's a process. So imagine if this was a workout, then this would almost be the warm-up, ready to go. And then we do the main session, which is the sleep. And then we do the cool down, which is waking up. And it's important we go through that process and not just go, right, I'm done with work, time to sleep. If you're someone that finds it easy to fall asleep really quickly, that doesn't necessarily mean you're getting a deep enough sleep and a restorative sleep, which is vital. So I put on here closing things down, finishing up at home, sorting the kids out, maybe getting things prepped, ready to go to bed, sorting the pets out. And then we start going into the important work as well, the removal of phones, blue light, emails, work. And we start creating the setup in our room where blinds are closed, curtains are closed. We're trying to dim the light as much as we can and have a nice temperature to fall asleep to. Really important. The next two bits that I've added on here, next day plans. So if you're someone that gets really anxious or really worried about what's going to happen next day, maybe you've got a lot on in work and a high pressure role, then write some bits down of what you've got to get done tomorrow and almost take it from your brain and dump it on the paper, or maybe some notes on your phone if you need to, and just try and leave that on the paper to deal with. And you can go to sleep with a less busy brain. And then relaxation, that's up to you, whether you just want to lie there in stillness, whether you want to do some mindfulness, guided meditation, that's up to you. But I've added that one in there. And again, 10 o'clock, so that's the half an hour routine and process to run through. And then here's hoping we get a full night's sleep, you're asleep for the whole time, and we wake at 6 the next morning. Again, I've just gone through sometimes these are actual optimal times to be going to bed, but if you can't access it, fine. Everyone's different. So first things first, move. So getting up and about, whether you do some morning stretches, whatever, or it's just getting out of bed and just having a little move around, shake out, and just walking downstairs, whatever. Having some water, whether it's a sip of water, a little cup or something, really important first thing. And then having some time for you. I'd like that to be in a lot of people's routines where they just spend, even if it's 2 minutes of just nothing, sitting there and chilling. So blocked out 15 minutes for this, and then we go into eating, having a brew, etc., listening to the radio, reading the paper, and then starting to build your day and getting the kids sorted, etc. So again, just trying to separate you starting the day before you go straight into it. Otherwise, we can be guilty of going straight out of work, straight to bed, straight out of bed, back into work, and everything just rolls into one. So this sleep routine here, really good, really important, especially for health issues like high blood pressure, things like that. This can be a really, really good go-to to start working on alongside with your foods. And touching on foods, I've made a small note here for some foods. So if you're going to eat at night, I'd like to say 45 minutes to an hour before going to bed. There's no food consumed then. If it is, it's rich in protein, nuts, grapes, eggs, bananas, fish, and meats. If you're going to have an evening meal, even add a little bit of rice in there or have some carbohydrates with it. But if it's going to be a snack late at night, try and have it protein dense to help with your sleep. And avoiding caffeine, which is one we talk on a lot in our workshops. Ideally, the cut-off time at 2 p.m. at the latest, midday to 1 o'clock is probably ideal, but no caffeine after 2 o'clock. So in a nutshell, caffeine just blocks us feeling sleepy. You might have a coffee late at night or a tea and think it helps you sleep. You might be asleep, but again, a restorative sleep where everything's meant to be going on and happening, you can't access it as much as someone who hasn't got the caffeine in the system. And we touched on this in the workshop as well. We did a while back about the caffeine's got a half-life. So it doesn't just come in your system and go, it stays a lot longer, and half the amount will still be in your system hours later rather than it all leaving. Okay, there's a lot I've gone through there and kind of rambled through. What's important is if you're not sleeping well, you just pick one thing to work on and see how that helps. If you are sleeping all right, then have a look at what you're not doing and add that in. If you think your sleep's really good, have a look if there's anything you can add in to improve it. One thing I will say before we leave the sleep bit is that if you're tracking it on a watch and that's deciding for you how you think you've slept, then I'd be aware of that and maybe start looking at getting rid of the watch at night time and just judging how you feel in the morning, because psychologically it does affect people. Okay, night shift workers, so a little bit different because during this bit, we're in work and we can't do any of this. So what's important is that you have some sort of routine. However that looks and how that works for you is best, but trying to keep to that routine. A setup when you come home. So when you do come to bed in the morning, if it's light, again, trying to black out the lights, having the light dimmed as much as you can, and also having a good temperature in the room. So it is almost like going through this, but at a different time in the day. You've just got to try and get this in as much as you can. Now, another setup as well is when you come home, just having like half an hour or so just to decompress and chill out after probably what's been a busy shift. And if you are going to come home and eat, still give it a bit of time, maybe 45 minutes afterwards until you then try and fall asleep. But again, make sure it's something high in protein. And if you're after something breakfast-wise, then eggs fall into that category. So it's super. Caffeine. Now, a lot of people have brews overnight. What I'd look at for this is just trying to restrict it again. Use the time we used before, the 2 p.m. cut-off, the same as what it would be. So I'd say after midnight, 1 o'clock, trying to reduce it, ready for you to get ready for the process of sleep. Now, if you are someone that works nights and days or a split shifts or has weekends off for nights, then how quick we can get back into a normal routine, that's the real challenge. So trying to get back into our normal routine, maybe on the last night, just not sleeping as much, but then having that first night set up optimally to help us fall asleep. Now, I've added an extra bit in here for people that travel a lot with work, get jet lag or whatever. I've got busy trips and always seem to be on the move. So a couple of tips we can start doing is as soon as you get on the plane, if it's a plane that you're traveling on, going through different time zones, is before you take off, is set your clocks, your time on your phone, your watch to where you're going to be heading to already. So do it beforehand. As soon as you sit down, change that over. If you want to nap or sleep on the journey, then it's probably best to do it the first couple of hours that you're on there and not the latter. So we've got time to come back round, we've got time to get ready, and our body can start processing things ready to get off and get on with our day. Alcohol, yeah, avoid alcohol where you can. If you're on a long flight and you want a little drink or whatever, of course, it's normal, but trying to avoid it or cut down on it where we can. Now, this one taps into everything we spoke to. If you're someone that likes to nap, napping's got loads of benefits to it. If you're going to nap when you're coming back from long travel, then just be careful and try and do it in like increments of 30 to 40 minutes in between 2 p.m. and maybe 4 p.m., but no later than 4. And that goes with people that just have low energy at the minute. If you want to nap, then do so, but make sure it pays you back. Make sure it's not taken away from you. Make sure you don't wake up and you even worse, and then you struggle to go into the day. So there's a couple of things we quickly fired through for you to start looking into. If you've got any questions, you want to reach out to me, you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, JSPT Health Studio, and try and add some little bits into your day that you're not necessarily doing. If your sleep is horrendous at the minute and you're not doing any of them, don't try and do them all. Pick one thing out that's going to be the biggest and most beneficial to you and get working on that. Hope you found it useful. Any comments, any questions you've got, feel free to send over.